Dive into the pulse of Bills football with Turf to Tape, where veteran sideline reporters Sal Capaccio and film room guru Erik Turner deliver a one-of-a-kind podcast experience, combining Sal's unparalleled access to players and coaches with Erik's razor-sharp film breakdowns. The show bridges the gap between casual fans and hardcore enthusiasts. This is Turf to Tape.
This is Turf to Tape, presented by Thin Man Brewery. I'm your host, Erik Turner, as always, joined by my man, Sal Capaccio from WGR. Sal, how you doing, buddy?
Doing pretty good. Trying to deal with the Patriots fans in my mentions and going viral in Boston today on WEEI because they got a clip of me on WGR calling Mike Vrabel a baby for how he handled it.
I've seen you had your hands full, and
yeah,
normally you kind of avoid it, but the time of year where it's the back and forth of Patriots fans and media has been it's been fun to watch, but of course it's a divisional rival. We expect these sort of things, right?
Yeah, I like Mike Vrabel. I really do. I have a lot of respect for him, but man, I just think he missed the mark. You can't go on local radio the next day and say, "Oh, they normally have 2 holding calls a game, but they didn't get any against us," which he was wrong. They had a holding that negated it. But so I go on WGR. I'm doing my extra point show. We play the clip, and radio's entertainment, right? Radio's entertainment. Yeah, we do. So we play the clip and we come back and I go, man, what a baby. Like, you just lost by 21 points. So they play that clip on WEEI this morning in Boston. And now I got everybody coming after me. And they're going after McDermott because of it. And they said McDermott blamed the officiating for the AFC Championship loss. I'm like, I don't think that happened. But here's the thing, Erik. I don't have the energy to keep it up. I'm like, whatever, dude. I mean, I just think that you can't go on local radio the day after your team blows a 21-point lead and say, I can't believe there weren't more holding calls on the other team. It's not like, hey, we disagreed with this call or that call. It's like, where are the holding calls?
Yeah, and especially for Vrabel, he doesn't usually come across that way. He's usually that strong-minded coach and really just kind of, brushes it off. Hey, the other team played better. He's been primarily that kind of coach, but for him to say that and to be completely wrong, let's be honest here, because like you said, the Bills did have a touchdown call back because of it and in a critical moment. But it was a little strange to hear him talk about it that way instead of just, hey, tip of the cap to the Bills, because the Bills, they came back and it was a fun game, a 35-31 win against the Patriots. From the top down, zooming out, what stands out the most about how the Bills handled that adversity and that comeback, something we've seen several times this year?
I'm going to go back to something I said after they did the same thing against the Steelers, because this has been kind of a theme the last few weeks. Steelers, they were down 1 score, they get the touchdown, but I think they understood that they just needed to calm down a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And I think in that game, not so much the Bengals game. The Bengals game was a few things were going wrong. They had to make adjustments. That's true. But Steelers game and this game were very similar to me because you're on the road. And I actually think the Bills kind of played a little tight, meaning if we don't make mistakes, we'll be fine. But when you play thinking don't make mistakes, what do you do sometimes? You make mistakes. And I think things started snowballing against them. I think they just realized, Erik, okay, like, as long as we just kind of play football, and you know what you need in a situation like that? You need a play or two to get you there. You know what happened? It was the kickoff. It was the kickoff return.
No doubt.
The kickoff return happens from Ray Davis. Now, a little bit towards the end of the second half, they get the touchdown that helped. End of the first half, they get the touchdown that helped. Ray Davis has the opening kickoff. They get into New England territory. And I think really from that moment, and Josh even alluded to how much that helped, it was like, all right, we get 45 yards here. It's a 10-point game. What are we doing? Right? Let's go. And I think from there, that happened. And then on defense, great adjustments. And the Bills are forced to make adjustments because they're playing underhanded, I think, personnel-wise in the defense. So other teams kind of come into a game and know that they can take advantage of some of the things the Bills are deficient in. And then it's up to the Bills to figure out how to combat that. I give Sean McDermott, Bobby Babich, the defensive coaching staff, a lot of credit for making those adjustments. I mean, Josh McDaniels had no answers for those adjustments.
I love that you mentioned special teams. Let's kick off the show with that. Let's go with the special teams. You had a great tweet about, obviously Ray Davis and how he's really seized that opportunity as a kick returner, but also the punting unit and how good they were as far as field position goes. But talk about the special teams. Talk about Tabor, the special teams coach, and the job that he's done, because it's made such a difference this year when we're talking Ray Davis on returns and how they're doing some things in that regard. And it's just really jump-started the offense in many ways, like you just said, and especially in this game against the Patriots.
Yeah, I think the special teams aspect of this game was not talked about enough because of what happened on offense and defense, but it really played a large role in the Bills' comeback and the Bills' ability to kind of get some things moving. And what I mean by that is a couple of different things. So Chris Tabor comes out initially with this new, kickoff return formation that includes Reggie Gilliam as a lead blocker, as a normal fullback. I asked Reggie about it after the game in the locker room. I said, what was that like? And he's like, well, it's just like basically an old kick return. There's no wedge, but you're the wedge guy and you have to go and be the lead blocker. I thought that was brilliant. It was really cool.
So cool.
See some new wrinkle like that. Everybody, we're what, 15 weeks in, and teams are still kind of tinkering with the kickoff stuff that we've seen now for a couple of years, and especially now with the 35-yard line and what you want to do. So I really like that. And then they put Alec Anderson back there, which was
they did.
Right? So Alec Anderson becomes a lead blocker, and you're allowed 2 kick returners, and almost every team puts 2 kick returners. The Bills put 1. They put 1, and that was Ray Davis. And Ray Davis was special. So you go with the wrinkle. That's number 1. And then Ray Davis gets the ball in his hands, and he averages 41 yards a kick return, which was monstrous in this game. He is now leading the NFL with 32-plus yard average kick returns, and that is by a wide margin. Nobody else in the league even has more than 30 yards of return. He's got 32 right now. So obviously he played a really big factor in that. And then on top of that, I mean, the Patriots have arguably, I would say, maybe the best punt return man in the game, and Marcus Jones.
Dangerous.
They did a great job to corral him, keep it away from him. He had 2 total returns for 5 yards. One he actually muffed on a line drive. I don't think it was a great punt. That started them at the 50. But otherwise, the punts by Wisnowski, the Patriots started at their own 17, their own 12, and their own 6. I mean, the Bills just totally won the field position battle in this game. Totally opposite of last game, by the way, where 5, the Patriots won the special teams, the field position battle in large part because of having really buttoned up special teams. And then you had Matt Prater, who unfortunately is injured now, but he goes 5 for 5, all extra points, but those are important. And it's especially important to make your extra points when you're a game where the Patriots couldn't get a field goal at the end. They had to get a touchdown, right? So they have to start pressing because you're making your extra points. He goes 5 for 5. So I think all of that rolled up. You're talking about a really highly regarded special teams unit for the Patriots. And I thought the Bills just dominated them in that unit.
The kick returns have been so much fun to watch. I don't typically watch special teams film, but I've been watching so much more this year because of these returns and how they're setting up so different. Like for many, many years, kick returns are, like you said, middle return, right return, left return. There was not too much creativity in thinking outside of the box. Each week, Taves is doing something different on these kick returns. Like you said, this time it was a single returner deep. Couple of the returns, it was Gilliam as the up man. The last return that really jump started that, the second half there for the Bills was with Alec Anderson. And I mean, Ray Davis in this game, 4 kick returns, 164 yards returns. That's a 41-yard average. 3 kick returns of 35-plus yards, tying the franchise's single game record since 91. His kick return average of 32.4 currently leads the NFL and is the single highest season average in team history. Ray Davis, he's done a great job here. Again, he's losing some of those touches behind Cook as running back 2, but he's really seized his opportunity here as a returner. His timing on these returns, as you're seeing, and how you hit the crease at full speed, but also break those arm tackles and maintain that contact balance. He's a tough tackle on these returns, and it's really showed out, throughout the year that he's, been making these returns. It's been fun to watch, again, from a scheme standpoint, but also seeing a guy like that flourish in a role that we didn't quite expect.
That's right. And I think that point is really big, which is he hasn't had the same season as last year, and partly because James Cook is rolling so well, you're not even putting him on the field as much, right? Credit to this coaching staff for saying, we got this guy in the roster. We think he has a skill set, and they found a role where he can really maximize his skill set. And I think the coaching staff deserves a lot of credit for that. I think, Ray Davis deserves a lot of credit for accepting that role and being, hey, I'm going to be less of a number 2 running back, but I can really impact the game in a different kind of way. And he's really helping his team. I've had the question this week, well, if he's so good at it, why doesn't he return punts? And the reason is, folks, it's just a different skill set.
Totally different.
As someone who did return kicks and punts, and I think you might have too, Erik.
Yes,
it is a totally different skill set, right? I mean, the ball has a different trajectory, angle, spin, everything that's happening. You have one guy coming at you, right barreling down on you versus maybe everybody in front of you with lanes. There's all different kinds of things and nuances that go into it. But the other part, he's never returned a punt. He's never returned a punt in college or the NFL. So it's just not something that, at least now, I don't think the Bills would ever think about doing.
Ron has a great question to kind of wrap up the special team segment.
Yeah.
Sal, have you heard anything about any kickers that have been brought in to replace Prater with that injury that popped up this week?
Have not heard anything yet, but I would tell you, as we are on, maybe, just maybe, as we're on today, it's going to be a little bit later than that, probably, though. A little bit later today, we'll have the transaction report from Transaction Wire from in the NFL, and they generally have guys who came in for workouts.
Yeah.
So if there is something to that, we'll let everybody know.
Yeah, great point. It's usually the workouts usually happen either Monday or Tuesday mornings, typically,
Yes.
right? And that's why you see them on that transaction report as well.
And Sean McDermott said he didn't find out until yesterday about Matt Prater's injury. So I would think that if that's the case, you're probably not even really bringing anybody in until today.
Right. All right. So let's get into the defensive side of the ball. Let's get into some of the major talking points from this game. Again, a big win against the Patriots. And the first to second half, Sal, obviously were completely different. In the first half, the Patriots ran 33 plays on offense. They were 4 for 5 on third down. They had 16 first downs, 285 total yards. But when you go to the second half, as has been the case, especially in these games where the Bills get down a few possessions, the Bills made some coaching adjustments, some adjustments on defense. And in that second half, the Patriots only ran 18 plays. They were 1 for 5 on third down, only garnered 3 first downs and 100 total yards. So let me ask you,
amazing.
What did you see? What did you sense from the Patriots, from the Bills, from the stadium? Like what was it like when this turnaround started happening, especially if we're talking the Patriots offense that was rolling early from the first half to the second half?
Yeah. So I think, it's sports, right? And you have this feeling, you have this confidence. And then when things aren't going your way, you feel like everything's kind of coming in at you. I said the Bills started this game tight. I think the Patriots got a little tight after that. Patriots were rolling. It's really funny. True story. Like, we're inside the stadium. You might have seen this. There was a point, it was 21-0. On the big board, they show Travis Scott with Robert Kraft in his box. And they're just hooping it up, almost like it's the end of a game. And it's like there's 4 minutes left and they got it well in hand. Like, everybody's just super loosey-goosey. Oh, my God, this is great. They show Stephon Diggs on the sideline. And sure, I mean, he's hyped up, and that's fine. We know Stephon has this big personality, and he can get really intense like that. In that moment, I'm not kidding you, in that moment, I said to myself, boy, they're acting like this game's over. Like, there's a lot of time left. You can't do that. And let's remember, the Patriots are a young team. They haven't been in this situation yet.
Yes.
And I just don't think they handled it that well, to be quite honest with you.
Agreed.
And the Bills did put themselves way farther behind than you ever want to, obviously.
Right.
But the Bills have been in this situation before. Heck, they've been in it the last 2 weeks in this situation where they understood that, hey, okay, like, there's a lot of football left. We just have to make a play or two. And then suddenly on the field, I guess it would be inside zone. You could tell me more than anything that started working. Just they started running it, started hitting some holes.
Yeah.
And the Bills felt, you know what, we can run against this team. I felt the Bills could have leaned on the run game in this game. But when you open up the game with that long pass, it doesn't get brought in. That's when it goes against you. Now you're 2nd and 10, and you're just playing a little bit from behind. You can't really do that. Once you get to midfield, over midfield, and that second half to start it, and you can start running the ball, now you can get back to a balanced attack. And then once you score and it's a 10-point game, now you can open up the playbook back to what you want.
I thought defensively, the Bills did a good job of, we've talked about this too, on both sides of the ball. It's not that they start off vanilla. They kind of run their system. They run their structure, offense and defense. They run their plays. They run their calls. There's not super in-depth game planning. I don't want to take away from them, but there's not a lot of game planning going on. They run their offense. They run their defense. That's kind of how they came out. And I agree with you, what you said at the top of that. The Bills kind of came out a little flat, but I thought defensively what they did, and some of this is the score, and the Bills mentality changes from more of the conservative type side to the aggressive side. And the Bills just got a lot more aggressive. They start running a lot of their blitzes to stop the run. They get the, 2nd and 15, the 2nd and 14 situations, those havoc plays to get the offense behind the sticks. You saw that going in this game. And in many ways, when you're talking complimentary football, Josh Allen puts that cape on. He gets that offense going. And that, in many ways, when they start scoring in 5 drives, the touchdowns on 5 drives, that pressure is felt by the opposing offense, by the opposing quarterback as well. And I thought May was rattled a little bit in that regard. But I think overall it was the aggressiveness that we see in these games when they get behind. And it's something you asked Trey White about after the game. And I wanted to play it because he had some really good insight about, those changes from the first to second half. So listen in.
And then it seemed like you guys really smothered in the second half. They didn't really have Drake didn't have anywhere to throw to. Was there any adjustment in the back end?
No, it wasn't. We were just able to get up and get aggressive and get our hands on them a little bit and play aggressive. Aggressive in our man-to-man coverages. Our defensive line, they did a great job getting the quarterback off the spot. So anytime you have those two rushing coverage together, it's going to be good for us.
And then it seemed like
I love what he talks about rushing coverage, obviously working together, being married together. They did a better job in the second half, but in a lot of this game, in the second half specifically, you saw those corners get their hands on those wide receivers and get aggressive with them. There's more press. If you look at the numbers, there was more press by the Bills in that second half. And combine that with the aggressive early down run stops and getting them behind the chains, it put them into third and longs a lot more. And it allowed them to speed up the processing in May, but make those windows a lot tighter for May. And when you added that pressure of Josh Allen scoring with that offense, that those throws weren't as accurate as they were in the first half.
Yeah, the other thing they did was they took away his escape lanes. And I think that I don't know if they employed a spy more often, but it seemed like he just was less willing to run in those situations. And he did a nice job of running early in the game. One time he got out of, who was it, Ogunjobi, maybe, who had him, felt like he should get him down. And he gets out of it. And, he, of course, ran for a couple touchdowns. One was on a design run. One was just like the parting of the sea. And he just ran up the middle. But he didn't run much in the second half. And I think the Bills did a good job to disguise their coverages. Heck, in the last play of the game, you had Joey Bosa, last play of their offense. You had Joey Bosa dropping into coverage. The Bills just kind of did a lot of different things to kind of confuse him. And I don't think he trusted what he was seeing. And then he couldn't run like he normally would earlier in the game. So, again, great job by the Bills to kind of figure that out. Now, one thing that keeps happening is, and brought up, why are the Bills starting so slow on defense, though, right? Why are they having these issues? And again, I'm going to go back to, I think what's happening is, to me, the Bills know they don't have teams going to a game with a really good. Trey White in that same interview said he gave credit to the Patriots having a really good first 15 script.
15, yes. Scripted plays, yep.
And what that means is, folks, that they are scripting out their first 15 plays because of what the Bills do, what they can do, and this is going to work, and this is going to work, and they're going to go. And they can stay on schedule. And you saw that with some trick plays, right? Some little chicanery that they did and throwing it back. Like, they emptied out the kitchen sink.
No doubt.
And they had a really good plan. And when you have 2 weeks to prepare, you can have a really good plan. And the Bills are a little underhanded on defense. They're not the same defensive personnel. They're trying to mix and match. And I think what's happening is teams are saying, okay, we can pick on this, we can pick on that. Let's go do that to start the game. So once the Bills see that, they start, well, we can't live like that all game. So what are we going to do to adjust? And then the Bills start using all the resources they have at their disposal to say, how can we kind of mitigate what's happening to us now to be on more even footing? And I think that's what you've seen the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, the bye week obviously played a factor in this game. And like you said, the first 15 plays, there was a little bit of everything. There was some really good balance, some trick plays, some plays that they've never really run that you've seen other teams run against the Bills and have success. And I thought what you said about how they showed different looks to Drake May, I thought they treated Drake May like an MVP worthy candidate. Rightfully so. I think they treated him that way. They threw an array of coverages at May, and a lot of those in the first half were single high coverages. Second half, they kind of switched to more of two high coverages and running a lot of cover six, which cover six is more of like a split field cover. So half the defense is playing cover four, quarter, half. The other half is playing more of a cover two look. But there are variations and different ways to run those calls in those buckets. And the Bills showed every single one of them. And it really slowed down the processing of May when it came to trusting what his eyes were seeing. And he really started questioning himself and where he wasn't pulling the trigger in rhythm like he should be. And I think that when he's looking to one side for his first couple reads, he's like, okay, this is that coverage. It's taken away, right? Those first two reads are taken away. Let me go to the other side. Hold on. Why is it man coverage over here? It's zone over here. The split field coverages threw him off. And again, it made him a lot more disjointed, and those windows were tighter because everyone is late in the play, whether it's man or zone. And I thought they did a great job of just throwing, like you said, the kitchen sink on the defensive side of the ball for the Bills and emptying those clips against May as far as coverages go, because there wasn't much pressure on Drake May.
No, that's right.
Pressure. It was more the coverage.
Yeah, and you just showed a couple of clips there. And if you like show and freeze right at the snap of the ball, look how tight the Bills are, right?
Yeah.
They're not playing these. They're not. What was the common refrain over the last several years? Soft zone, soft zone. I mean, look at where they are on the line of scrimmage on these guys, right?
Yeah.
I thought the Bills have gotten more aggressive lately. I think the Bills have done a better job. Max Harrison can play like that. He can play man. He can play zone. I mean, you have a good young corner here, I think, in Max Harrison, who's really helped this team. And without Christian Benford, they were up against it a little bit. But they've trusted Tre'Davious White. I think Tre'Davious White has really played good football, especially since the bye. They're trusting him right now. He's in good spots. He's in good coverage. I mean, he got beat on Mac Hollins over the middle. Great catch by Mac Hollins. You're not always going to be always the super tightest, but even in that particular play, he was pretty close. And then later on had a really great coverage on Hollins down the field. He had the interception, obviously.
Yeah.
I think he's playing well, but I think the general overall point is you see how they're playing a little tighter. That's also aggressiveness. People associate aggressiveness with blitzing all the time. That doesn't have to be aggressive. Aggressive can be a little tighter coverage, forcing the issue a little bit earlier.
No doubt about it. And that's what I meant, earlier about how they were getting their hands on these guys and usually early, and they were taking away some of those quick game elements that, the Bills gave up to, say, like a Stephon Diggs in that first matchup. And speaking of the Bills, I thought did a pretty good job when we're talking game plan against Diggs in the first half. They pretty much took him out of the game by showing, especially in those high leverage third down situations where they had in-out leverage on him. If he goes inside, there's a defender to take away that. If he breaks out, we have a guy trapping and a boundary corner trapping. I thought they did a great job of eliminating him early and saying, you know what, we're not going to let you get going. We're going to make Drake May look other places. And as the game went on, he almost just forgot about having Stephon Diggs in his lineup.
Yeah. I mean, you go back, remember 10 for 146 against the Bills. The week before that, he went for over 100. Since that game, he's been pretty pedestrian, actually. I mean, he had a 7-catch, 69-yard performance against Tennessee, but really the last 3 weeks against the Bills, 3 for 26. The Giants, 3 for 26. Cincinnati Bengals, 2 for 20. He's an older player. He's coming off that ACL. He's an elite player. There's no doubt about it. I do think, though, that as you saw kind of towards the end of the Bills season, when the final season was in Buffalo, which was 2023, it just feels like he's not quite the same player he was as fresh as he was early in the season. And that's hurting the Patriots offense a little bit. Now he got away from Taron Johnson on a nice route over the middle on a third down, and he can still be really good like that. But I do think it's something the Patriots have to start thinking about with Stephon Diggs going forward this year, which is he's not quite the same explosive, fresh player they had earlier in the season. And they don't have the most world-beating wide receivers. They're good. They can they catch everything, right? It's they have really good hands. They catch. Right. But that's something I think that hurt them in this game, not having the same Stephon Diggs they had in week 5.
Right. And that's part of the reason why the Bills could just man up at times, whether it's man on one side, zone on the other, but they could man up with some of the Patriots receivers and tight ends because they could match up, pretty well. But speaking of a guy that just lit it up, and he is our tapped in player of the game presented by Thin Man Brewery, Matt Milano, 10 total tackles, 2 sacks, a forced fumble, 6 defensive stops. Give us your thoughts on Milano. He's been trending in the right direction when he's been on the field. This was a game that really showed how important he can be for this run. We're talking about from here on out into the playoffs. His play, his athleticism, those flashes are what the Bills need on that side of the ball going forward.
Matt Milano is one of the higher IQ linebackers that you will find in the NFL, and certainly that is, played in Buffalo. And it's just, he's super smart. He understands angles. He understands, he diagnoses. You did such a great breakdown last year on him versus Dorian Williams, where like Dorian is an athlete and he gets there fast and he brings the heat, right? But Matt processes so quickly. Yeah. He understands everything he's seeing, such a high level processor, studier, all of that. And that's not a shot on Dorian Williams. Matt's just better than pretty much anybody at that, right? He, like most guys in the league at his position. He's so good at it. And the Bills really kind of used him in a role in this game. They don't use him in a lot, but he's good at, which is blitzing and understanding angles. Take a look at when he took Drake May down by one arm in the one blitz. He fought, Ramondre Stevenson, I think it was Stevenson, might have been Henderson. Yep. I mean, he did a good job of finding him, Matt Milano. Milano just completely buried him by getting his shoulder up to a certain spot where he's like, I got this angle on him and I'm going to be able to get around him. Like Matt understood leverage, he understood the angle. He's a good blitzer. The Bills don't love to use him like that because he's a sideline to sideline guy, and you want to be able to use him like that. But I thought the Bills did a great job of mixing him up into a spot where they don't normally use him, but he's good and he's effective at it. And Sean McDermott made a really interesting comment after the game about him, about how Matt's worked his tail off to get kind of back and healthy. And
he was
not saying
he
not that he hasn't been healthy, but I think Matt is as fresh as he's been right now.
I love that he's available. Obviously, that is the first thing, like you said. If he's available, he helps this defense. He opens up the playbook. I talked about the cover 6 looks. What the Bills do a lot of these times on the cover 2 side is, again, they mix in zone and man. Sometimes on the backside, it's a corner, a boundary corner, and Matt Milano in man coverage versus a tight end and a running back. And that opens up what they can do, because you can now take away 2 of those receivers, and now you can play zone and match coverage with guys that you don't want to see in man coverage week in and week out, play in and play out. And so that opens up the defense. I thought him and Shaq came down and squeezed the running backs and tight ends in man coverage a bunch to take away those underneath checkdowns from May. And just his play over the top of runs when they're going sideline to sideline. He is so good at avoiding these blocks, getting under the blocks, shaving angles to go make the tackle on running backs. I thought it showed up in this game. And like you said, something that he's always been good at is rushing the passer. And so, instead of letting the running back just flare out, if you put him up near the line of scrimmage, like you saw him in this game, that running back all of a sudden has to stay in, and you now have a matchup of Milano versus a running back, and Milano can attack, whether it's physically or athletically. And you saw how much it showed out in this game and made such a difference in those high leverage situations.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I'm curious to see like what they do this week against a young quarterback and Shedeur Sanders, how they mix things up. And, kind of going forward, playing with some of that, because once you get to the playoffs and you're, it's not like you have Mahomes and Lamar, but these are good quarterbacks and they don't get there for, no reason. And I think the Bills are kind of playing around a little bit, and not saying just like for no reason, but they're mixing up a lot of different things that maybe they can kind of start to dip into and use at their disposal. The other thing it's doing, Erik, is, if you're, let's say, Denver and Bo Nix, if you're Jacksonville and Trevor Lawrence and Liam Cohen and Sean Payton, now you see these things they're doing, and you're going to have to start preparing for all of this stuff the Bills can do.
Yeah. And it's something, again, that, now that Milano is healthy, he hasn't played a ton of snaps this year, but now he's healthy. These are newer things on film, to your point, that the opposing coordinators have to worry about. But as we said, Matt Milano, great game, opens up the defense for the Bills. He was our tapped-in player of the game, courtesy of Thin Man Brewery. And if you haven't heard, Mafia Light is now in stores. It's 3.5% ABV, 80 calories in a 12-ounce can, drinks like water with notes of beer. Go ahead to your local grocery store and gas station, liquor stores, wherever they sell Thin Man Brewery products, and pick up Mafia Light. We appreciate them joining us this year for this segment, and we appreciate Matt Milano film. I love linebacker film. That's probably my favorite film to study. So anytime I could talk about linebackers, usually those segments run a little long, but we're going to move forward with this segment. As far as the defensive side of the ball, anyone else that you want to highlight as far as arrows up in this game against the Patriots?
Defensive side of the ball. I thought it wasn't a eye-popping game for Shaq Thompson, but not that he did anything wrong. I'm bringing it up because you did this without, again, Terrell Bernard and Christian Benford. And then when you get Terrell Bernard back, I'm wondering what they kind of want to do with that, right? And how they want to play that. But that being said, the Bills played quite a bit of base, actually. Dorian Williams was out there. Joe Andreessen even played a play, by the way, for Shaq Thompson.
He did, for Shaq.
Who came off the field, right? It was kind of interesting. I don't know if Shaq had something wrong with his helmet or not, but it just kind of show you, I think the Bills, speaking of linebackers, the Bills have some linebackers that they're very comfortable with turning to, and they were able to in this game. And of course, Joey Bosa just did a nice job and to kind of like show up at the end when they needed him to make a play. Yeah. That was a really nice athletic play to drop into coverage, and then obviously to get his hands up, knock it down. So that was a nice play and nice wrinkle by the Bills as well.
Yeah, that was fun. And he gave credit to Ryan Nielsen, I believe, for running that drill consistently with them and batting passes down, getting your hands up and batting passes down, something the Bills have always been really good at, honestly. But yeah, no, I would agree. Those players, I thought overall the defense, man, they were clicking. They were clicking in that second half. And yes, like we're seeing a lot of these comments say, hey, start earlier. those adjustments do tend to start in the second quarter, not just in the third quarter, but the second quarter, you start to see some of those adjustments, and you start to see, some of, getting Drake May kind of slowing down when we're talking about the passing game. So let's go to the other side of the ball. Offense, first half, we kind of alluded to it early. They were just not in rhythm. Obviously, they didn't run a ton of plays, but the plays that they did run, you saw Brandon Cooks double catch and eventually get pushed out of bounds on that big tone-setting type play. Again, play action down the field, trying to get that guy going, open up the passing game, loosen up the coverage. It was against Christian Gonzalez. That goes incomplete. And then you saw Josh step up in the pocket later in that drive and try to hit Kincaid, who's wide open, and he misses him. Even Palmer was open across the middle too. So they were just out of sync a little bit. And of course, now you're getting bombarded by the Patriots offense and points are getting put up. They just couldn't get in rhythm early.
Yeah, you're right about that. And that play, I mean, the play the Patriots made that should have been challenged by Sean McDermott. It wasn't. It was, we did not get a replay. I mean, I was there on the radio broadcast. We're thinking we're looking for a replay. We couldn't get a replay. So I understand, like he didn't have a replay, and you could do a leap of faith there. I get it, and maybe he should have. I'm not necessarily excusing it. I'm telling you why he didn't do it. But that play was huge. And then you come right back with a play the other way that doesn't go your way because Brandon Cooks can't get his feet down or can't corral the ball before he gets his feet down, I should say. And what a big swing those two plays were. So now everything's kind of snowballing against you. You're kind of fighting through it. And I think that's when you start pressing a little bit. But here comes old reliable Dawson Knox.
I know.
I mean,
it's crazy.
Dawson Knox, congratulations. Him and his wife, Alex, they have their daughter, Noah Elizabeth Knox. They welcome her into the world. And then he goes off and has a big game with 2 touchdowns. Old reliable, like I said, he was on the field more than any tight end. I do think they're managing, I think, Dalton Kincaid as much as they can
100%.
right now with the knee to make sure that he's not in a situation where he's not going to be available later because he's having to do too much of the work. But when you have Dawson Knox playing the way he is, and you have Jackson Hawes who can contribute as well, those two guys actually led 1 and 2 in tight end snaps. And then, Dalton Kincaid was third. It really helps the team. And Dawson Knox was really good in this game because he is a guy that, even though he's not elite as a pass catcher or route runner, he's not elite as a blocker. He's just very good at everything. So when he's on the field, you have to understand that and know that he puts you in a bind a little bit.
No doubt. And the Bills were in 12 personnel. So 1 running back, 2 tight ends, 28.4% of the time against the Patriots. Dawson Knox, great, role player, but stepped up in some big moments in this game. 3 receptions, 37 yards, 2 touchdowns. Colin Ritchie, our producer, pulled a great little footnote here. Knox now has the most receiving touchdowns by a tight end in franchise history, surpassing Pete Metzelaars, which I know a lot of Bills fans know that name and, the reverence that he brings for the tight end position of the Bills. I thought Knox was good in the run game as a blocker. He was very reliable. The throw that Josh hit him on when they're in empty, all verticals, you saw Josh roll out of the pocket, come downhill and throw that missile. Honestly, if I tried catching that, I have a bruise on my chest. Right. But like Dawson Knox reeled that in, and it was one of those plays that it was like, okay, Josh, go make a play. It's all verticals. Everyone's just going down the field after the penalty there, and Knox brought in. He had some really high leverage plays in this game, and they've relied on these tight ends. We talked about it. Yeah, they've relied on these tight ends the last few weeks.
Yeah, for sure. And they have to because they don't have as much on the outside. We know that, right? They're not separators and winners on the outside as much as everybody would like, and totally understand that. So you have to use what's at your disposal. The running backs have been more involved in the passing game, which is great. The tight ends have been more involved in the passing game. You'd love to get more out of your wide receivers, and hopefully that does come. Khalil Shakir had a nice game, but outside of him, he had 1 catch for 16 yards from a wide receiver. That was Joshua Palmer. So the tight ends have to step up. So on that touchdown, what's interesting is when the Bills or their opponent are in the red zone, especially down near the goal line, I always go right to the goal line. I stand there so I can see what's happening. On that particular drive, I actually went into the end zone and I knelt down with the play was coming at me. I wanted to see the play unfold in front of me if I was a safety.
That's dangerous.
Yeah, it is, right? It is. So if you go watch the back angle of that, you see me kneeling in the end zone right where Dawson Knox catches it, basically. So Josh throws the ball, and I'm like, oh, like it's just to the right of me. It's coming at me, though. And when he throws the ball, I did not see Dawson Knox. And out of nowhere, there's Dawson. And I'm telling you, from my angle, it was even more impressive than what it looked like on TV. Cow. I just couldn't believe it. And in the locker room after the game, Dawson said, well, Josh threw a bullet, put it on my chest, and I better hold on to it in that instance, right? And he did. And that was what an impressive throw. And that came after Josh had run for the touchdown. It got called back on the hold. Mike Vrabel, if you're taking notes, it got called back on a hold by Osiris Torrance.
Yeah.
I really thought the Bills were just going to settle for a field goal there, Eric. They were down 3.
Mhm.
Okay, there would have been nothing wrong with saying, let's just get a few yards. We'll settle for a field goal. Don't take anything to chance. We got down here. That wasn't the mentality. The mentality was we can score, and they did.
And, I watched some press conference stuff from the Patriots, and on that play, that touchdown to Dawson Knox, they admitted that there was some kind of twist that was supposed to happen. So you see that edge player kind of dart or spike inside. The D tackle was supposed to loop over the top to become the new contain player. That guy didn't. Christian Barmore didn't. And that allowed Josh to get outside the pocket to hit Knox for that touchdown. But you talk about red zone. Bills were 5 for 6 in the red zone against the Patriots. That was a weakness of the Patriots coming in. Not many teams got down there. They mentioned in the broadcast a bunch of times. Not many teams would get into the red zone, but when they did, they would score. And the Bills took advantage of that in the run and pass game. Speaking of Josh Allen, 19 of 28, 193 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, 11 rushes, 48 rushing yards. I found it quite amazing after going back and watching this film, based on how everything unfolded with the score and how behind they got, how actually composed Josh Allen was. He didn't activate hero ball. He really,
no, that's
McDermott
right.
said he took what came to him. He was efficient. And then, those few times in the game, he did bust out the cape and make those plays. But overall, I was pretty shocked to see that Allen really just kind of played within the scheme, within himself, and then made the plays that we're typically used to seeing in those clutch moments.
I'm glad you brought that up. The touchdown drive, I'm trying to remember, had to be the third quarter. So I guess it would have been the one that made it 14. Maybe it was 21, though. The one that made it 21. He threw 2 balls away that he made decisions to say, I'm throwing these balls away. One was, remember, he was running to the sideline. It was going to be a sack, and he just kind of shuffled past it.
Yeah.
And there was another one later where he just kind of threw it out of bounds. Like, those are exactly the kind of plays you're talking about. He lived to fight another day. He didn't try to play hero ball in those situations. And I agree with you, Eric. I think that was a big component of the comeback, which was, we don't have to get it all in one play. Live to fight another day. Let's just keep playing the way we are, and we can stay on schedule here. And those plays mattered by Josh making those decisions. His decision-making was the Superman part of his play in this game.
It was so much fun to watch. Now, it was more of like, okay, matriculation. And let's be honest here. For all this talk about Josh having no one and no weapons, I think it's overstated at this point. It's gone a little too far. Let's give some props to James Cook and the Bills' offensive line, because it was the balance that they needed to keep these drives going and to sometimes pick up some chunk yards. James Cook finished with 107 yards on 22 carries, a couple touchdowns on the ground, long of 12. Obviously had a receiving touchdown as well. He's been great for the Bills offense at keeping them on schedule, but also getting those explosive plays, adding that explosive element to the Bills offense that they need at times when they kind of go stale offensively. So talk about James Cook and the Bills run game, which includes Josh Allen in this one, as I talked about.
Yeah. And I think the stats speak for themselves. I put it out today. I don't know if people realize James Cook right now is second in the NFL in total rushing yards, and he's only 28 yards behind Jonathan Taylor with one less carry, by the way. They both have Jonathan Taylor, 272 carries, James Cook, 271. Taylor has 1,443 yards, Cook 1,415, and they're by far and away the next closest person doesn't even have 1,200. That's Devon Achane. By the way, shout out Devon Achane. Is 5.8 yards a carry, which leads the league, which is really good. But I just think it shows how great he's been all year, and he's carrying the workload. And a lot of us didn't think he could. I mean, the guy is 200 pounds essentially, and yet he just he takes so much of like everything off himself by taking shots, by the way he runs, the way he kind of goes down to the ground. His vision allows him to, he took a couple big shots in this game, but he generally doesn't take those. And I know there's some concern about, is it too much of a workload? He's not the biggest guy, but I think James has kind of proven that like the way he runs, the way he plays, that they're just going to keep playing it that way with him. And sure, if you get into a situation, maybe in Cleveland, you hope like you're playing a team that's not that good, and maybe the Bills can jump out to a lead. You could take a little bit off him. That would be great. You'd love to be able to do that. Right. But I think right now the Bills are comfortable with allowing him to be, because they have done it all year.
I think schematically in this game, the Bills offense, their staff stayed ahead of the Patriots when it came to the run game. They attacked up the middle. The Patriots, one of their better defenders, Spillane, the linebacker, was out this game. and the Bills went right up the middle on a lot of their plays. They ran their hits, they ran their duo, they ran their mid zone. But I thought there were some other variations to those favorite plays. They not only ran it out from under center, but they also ran duo from shotgun. They ran duo in like 3 or 4 different ways, which we hadn't seen that type of variety when we're talking the looks, right? Because a lot of times you see the formation, you see Shavers come in or Shakir come in, you're like, here comes duo. Well, the Bills ran it from different formations. Like I said, shotgun, under center, different, tight ends over there instead of just a wide receiver. And I thought that really disguised what they were going to run and really kind of caught the Patriots off guard. So much so that the Patriots started overloading, thinking duo's coming. And then all of a sudden with the Bills and shotgun, they were running inside zone, which they haven't run a bunch of from shotgun. So I thought the staff did a great job game plan wise, but also keeping the defense off balance because they also ran a lot of play action. And a lot of those play actions looked exactly like the runs that they were having success with.
Yeah, for sure. And, Josh Allen, they've done a better job as of late of kind of keeping them more clean, since that Texans game when, Sean McDermott was pretty upset about that. He's gone down a couple of times, but they've done a much better job. This wasn't the most prolific pass rushing group the Patriots have. And you mentioned Spillane.
True.
I mean, Milton Williams is such a good defender, and he has been out. They play the Ravens Sunday night, and he's going to be out for that game because he can't come back from IR yet. So I'm interested to see. The Ravens are going to really kind of pound it at them as well. He'll be a difference, though, in the playoffs for them. When they get Milton Williams back, it'll be a different team. The same, like the Bills when they played them in week 5. It just shows you how much, teams change. And that's what you do, though. You have to take advantage of when teams are, with players matter. Players matter. And if you have a guy that's not as good playing a certain spot, then, you have to take advantage of that. And I thought the tackles for the Bills played really well in this game. Spencer Brown coming back, getting him back after 2 weeks not playing. And then Deion Dawkins, and we all saw the Deion Dawkins clip of him, riding like he was surfing basically on a player.
Superman.
Yeah.
Awesome stuff. Yeah, the offensive line, they're coming along. And I thought, I love talking offensive line, especially guys like David Edwards. You can't give this guy enough credit. He is going to be a free agent, but on every single play, go back and watch a game. On every single pass that the Bills ran, David Edwards is helping not only Connor McGovern, but he's letting Josh know, no, trust me, they're coming from this side. Like, he was emphatic in this game, and really, Josh listened to him. There were times this year, we've talked about it, where there were some miscommunications as far as where they want to set the protections because Josh wants to keep this guy hot. There's been issues when it comes to that communication, and Josh trusting the offensive line. He trusted David Edwards in this game. And I think it's a huge stepping stone when we're talking the long run and getting the protections right, because there have been issues at times, but I think they're starting to stabilize. And I think that's because Josh is trusting not just his offensive line, but the guard, David Edwards.
It's so funny you say that. Yeah. If you can watch the TV broadcast, you see David Edwards going crazy, pointing at himself, pointing at a guy, it's really funny. And what did Deion Dawkins say last week after the Bengals game? David Edwards is the best communicator. He's an elite communicator, best communicating left guard that he's played with. And I think it shows when you see how demonstrative he is out there communicating what he needs to communicate.
He's so much fun to watch. I always say he's the most technically sound, but he's also one of the headiest players. From the players I talk to, they always mention him when it comes to knowing the game, the techniques, side of things. And he's a guy, side note, he's a guy I want to get into the film room as soon as possible because you can learn so much from him as an analyst, but also as the average fan, which is something we love to do here at Cover One. So on the offensive side of the ball, anyone else that you want to highlight for arrow up in this game or arrow down? We're talking the offense.
Well, listen, I said earlier, I think that, Keon Coleman has to step up as far as production wise, a wide receiver. We talked about the wide receivers and he's one. I will say though, I think he did a nice job blocking. And I know that's not why you have him. I get it. Like, believe me, folks, I understand that. Like, that's not his role. You want him to catch passes. But if you can get Keon Coleman engaged in a different way, if he's not being productive, that's going to help your offense. And there was a really nice block he had downfield on one of Josh Allen's runs. So I think that, deserves to be mentioned. I think Ty Johnson was an underrated player in this game. Ty Johnson had a couple of real nice plays in this game to kind of get the Bills out of a couple of situations. One on a screen, breaks an arm tackle. He's able to get the first down. That was really important for them. And Ty just does a lot of little things right for this offense.
Great point about Coleman. I mean, if you want to get out of the doghouse, you do all the little things.
That's right.
You do all the little things, and he's earning that trust back. He's earning that privilege back. And that's why he was on the field a lot, right? His
second most snaps behind Khalil Shakir. That's
there
right.
you go. And so that is him working back in the good graces of the staff. And that play you talked about, that blocking down the field, he pancaked that defender and right along the sideline there. So great points when we're talking the wide receiver, Keon Coleman. But the rest of the week, what do we have going on this week? Bills are playing the Browns. What's the schedule look like? What content's coming out? What you got going on?
Okay, so Bills Browns this week. Remember last week what I told you, folks? Every Wednesday should be pretty much a walkthrough day. Now, from here on out, they're going to do walkthroughs on Wednesday. So we're not going to get a full injury report. We'll get an estimated injury report. We are monitoring Christian Benford big time this week, obviously, coming off the injury, missing last game. Terrell Bernard still. Sean McDermott said they are both improving. The big news coming out of Sean McDermott yesterday was Matt Prater being injured. So we'll find out and see. In fact, let me just see. Let me just real quick as we are live here. Is there a transactions report out? There is not yet. So I don't know if the wire is not out yet and if the Bills brought anybody in. That being said, I have a special show coming up this Thursday night. I want to invite everybody to listen up, folks. All right. I'm going to be at Sports City Pizza Pub on Niagara Street on Thursday night. I'm going to be doing my own Santa Sal's house watch party. And I'm going to be doing a Christmas party as a thank you to everybody. How about this, Erik? Thanks cool. to TSC Buffalo, signed jerseys, signed mini helmets, signed photos. Everybody gets raffle tickets and every 15 minutes, every 10 minutes. I'm just going to be giving stuff away starting at 6:30. Awesome. Then we're going to watch Flyers and Sabres. We're going to watch Thursday Night Football between the Rams and the Seahawks. It's going to be awesome. Come to Sports City Pizza Pub. Wings, pizza, drinks, everything. Santa Sal is going to be giving away stuff thanks to
Santa
TSC.
Sal.
That's right.
I love it.
Come on. That is Thursday night, 1407 Niagara Street.
Oh, that sounds like so much fun. I wish I could make it. It's TSC. They're a great company.
Yes.
They take care of the fans. They take care of everyone that they partner with. They're a great company. That's going to be an awesome event. You guys make sure to get out there and support Sal and TSC. We appreciate everyone joining us live here on YouTube. Leave us a comment, smash that like button. Also, we're obviously in audio podcast form as well. And make sure to listen to us on your way to work, on your way home from work, wherever you listen to your podcasts. And again, the holidays are coming. We appreciate all the support from you guys. We couldn't do this without any of you, week in and week out. And, we're just talking football here. We love talking football. We like teaching football. It's a reason why Sal and I really wanted to do this show to kind of slow the game down for the average fan. So we hope that we're doing that for you week in and week out. And we hope that you enjoyed this recap of the Bills-Patriots game, a big comeback win for the Bills against the Patriots. But on behalf of Turf to Tape and Thin Man Brewery, I am your host, Erik Turner. That's Sal Capaccio. We'll see you next week.